The stars looked different from up here. Commander Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of the UESS Vigilant, watching the distant lights that marked other worlds, other civilizations. He had been doing this for 3 years now, ever since Earth went silent. 30 years ago, the Galactic Council made first contact with Earth. Their ships appeared in orbit, broadcasting messages in dozens of languages. They came with promises of knowledge, trade, and friendship. They offered Earth a place among the stars, a seat at the table where 47 different alien species gathered to discuss the future of the galaxy. Earth's leaders sent one message back. "We acknowledge your contact. We require time to consider." Then Earth went quiet. No more transmissions. No diplomatic meetings. No trade agreements. The satellites stayed in orbit. The space stations kept working, but humanity stopped talking to the galaxy. The Council waited for an answer that never came. But Earth was not idle during those 30 years. Commander Morrison knew this better than most. His ship, the Vigilant, was one of 12 deep space monitoring vessels that humanity built in secret. 200 crew members worked around the clock, watching everything the Council did. They recorded every broadcast, tracked every ship, mapped every trade route. They listened to the Council's news, their entertainment, their private communications. They learned the Council's languages, all 47 of them. They studied their technology, their politics, their military tactics. Jake walked through the ship's corridors, nodding to crew members as they passed. Lieutenant Ben Carter sat at his station in the intelligence section, surrounded by holographic displays showing Council space. Ben was young, only 26, but he had a gift for understanding patterns. He could look at seemingly random data and find the connections that others missed. "Commander, you should see this," Ben said without looking up from his screens. Jake moved to stand beside him. The displays showed recent Council broadcasts from their central government chamber. Representatives from different species stood and spoke, their words translated automatically by Earth's advanced computers. "They're talking about us again," Ben explained. "Third time this week. They're getting frustrated." Jake watched as a tall alien with blue scales and 4 arms gestured dramatically. The translation appeared as text below the image. The humans continue their silence. 30 years we have waited. Perhaps they are too primitive to understand our offer. Other aliens in the chamber made sounds that the computer identified as laughter. "They think we're stupid," Ben said quietly. "Good," Jake replied. "Let them think that." Across the solar system, Admiral Claire Henderson commanded Earth's defense fleet from a station hidden in the asteroid belt. Her forces included 200 warships that the Council knew nothing about. These ships used technology that humanity had developed by studying Council designs and improving them. The fleet stayed hidden, powered down most of the time, waiting for orders that might never come. Claire reviewed reports from her scout ships. They ventured beyond the solar system, carefully avoiding Council sensors, gathering intelligence about military deployments and strategic positions. Earth wanted to know everything about their potential enemies, while revealing nothing about themselves. On Earth itself, deep underground facilities hummed with activity. Dr. Lisa Grant worked in one such place. In the Xenolinguistics division beneath the Rocky Mountains, she had spent 15 years studying how the Council species communicated. She knew their languages better than most of them did. She understood their idioms, their cultural references, their jokes. Lately, Lisa noticed a change in how the Council talked about Earth. For the first 25 years, they seemed curious, even respectful of humanity's request for time. But in the last 5 years, that changed. The curiosity became confusion. The confusion became frustration. The frustration was turning into something worse. Lisa compiled her findings into a report and sent it up through channels. The Council was beginning to see Earth's silence as a sign of weakness. Some Council members were starting to suggest that humanity lacked the intelligence to engage in galactic society. Others wondered if humans were afraid. President Helen Matthews read Lisa's report in her office in the White House. She had been president for 6 years, but she had been part of the Earth Defense Council for twice that long. She knew about the hidden ships, the monitoring stations, the secret facilities. She was one of the few who understood the full scope of what humanity had built during their 30 years of silence. Secretary of Defense Greg Palmer sat across from her desk. He had served 3 presidents, maintaining the same position because he understood the long game Earth was playing. "They think we're primitive," Greg said, tapping the report. They're starting to believe their own propaganda. That's exactly what we wanted, Helen replied. But we need to be careful. If they think we're too primitive, they might decide we're not worth waiting for. Or they might decide we're not capable of stopping them from taking what they want. Greg added. Director of Intelligence Karen West joined them via secure video link. Her face appeared on the wall screen, broadcasting from her office at the National Intelligence Agency. We're seeing increased military activity near our sector of space, she reported. Nothing aggressive yet, but they're positioning assets closer than before. Helen leaned back in her chair. How much longer do you think we have? Before they do something stupid? Karen considered the question. 6 months. Maybe a year. They're losing patience. The meeting continued for another hour, discussing scenarios and responses, but everyone in that room understood the fundamental truth. Earth had bought 30 years to prepare, but that time was running out. Eventually, the Council would force a confrontation. When that happened, humanity needed to be ready. On the Vigilant, Commander Morrison watched another Council broadcast. This one showed a Council member from a species called the Kronar. The alien spoke with confidence, his scales reflecting the chamber lights. Perhaps we should send another delegation to Earth, the Kronar said. Perhaps we should explain things more simply, in words the primitives can understand. More laughter from the assembled aliens. Ben looked up at his commander. Sir, doesn't it bother you? Listening to them mock us every day? Jake smiled slightly. My grandfather taught me something when I was young. He said that if you want to win a fight, let your enemy think you're weak. Let them get confident. Let them make mistakes. Then when the moment comes, show them what you're really capable of. Your grandfather sounds like a smart man. He was a chess champion, Jake said. He understood strategy. This whole thing, our 30 years of silence, it's the longest chess game in history, and we're about to make our next move. Above Earth, satellites continued their silent watch. In hidden bases throughout the solar system, crews maintained weapons and ships that represented humanity's best hope for survival. And on countless monitoring stations, intelligence officers tracked every move the Council made, gathering information, learning weaknesses, and waiting for the moment when Earth would finally break its silence. Ambassador Veltharn stepped onto the platform in the Grand Council chamber. His species, the Kronar, had been part of the Galactic Council since its founding 12,000 years ago. He carried himself with the pride of ancient authority. His blue scales caught the light as he turned to address the assembled representatives from 47 different worlds. Honored members, he began, his voice amplified throughout the massive chamber. We must discuss the human situation. Murmurs ran through the crowd. The human question had been a topic of debate for months now. 30 years since first contact and still no meaningful response from Earth. These humans received our generous offer 3 decades ago. Veltharn continued. We extended friendship. We offered knowledge. We invited them to join our great civilization. And what have they done? Nothing. They hide behind their single star and ignore us. Perhaps we made a mistake. Perhaps this species is not ready for the stars. Several council members made sounds of agreement. A representative from the Ascended Collective, a floating creature that looked like a jellyfish made of pure energy, drifted forward. High Counselor Zephyria spoke in a voice that echoed strangely. My analysts have studied the humans extensively. Their technology is primitive. They barely achieved spaceflight 100 years ago. Their fastest ships cannot even reach their own outer planets in reasonable time. Their computers are simple. Their weapons are crude chemical explosives. I believe they lack the cognitive ability to engage in proper interstellar relations. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Even species that normally remain neutral found humor in the assessment. I propose we reclassify Earth, Zephyria suggested. Make it a nature preserve, a place where primitive life can exist undisturbed. We have done this before with other species that proved unable to advance. On Earth, in a room buried deep beneath the Pentagon, military leaders watched the broadcast with growing anger. General Paul Harrison sat at the head of the table, his hands clasped tightly. Around him, officers from every branch of Earth's unified military force watched the aliens mock their species. They think we're animals, Colonel Amy Rodriguez said, her voice tight with controlled fury. They want to turn our entire planet into a zoo. Let them talk, Paul replied, though his jaw clenched. Every word they say tells us more about how they think. The broadcast continued. Ambassador Veltharn was speaking again. I have reviewed the intercepts from Earth's primitive communications. Their art is crude. Their music is noise without proper harmonics. Their literature shows no understanding of advanced concepts. They wage war on themselves constantly. They pollute their own planet. They are children playing with fire, and we treat them as equals? More laughter. A four-armed creature from the hegemony species stood and added, Perhaps they are afraid of us. Perhaps they saw our ships and realized how far beyond them we are. Their silence is not thoughtful consideration. It is the silence of fear. The council chamber erupted in agreement. Only a few voices remained silent, but they were drowned out by the majority. In his office at the National Intelligence Agency, Director of Intelligence Karen West reviewed the latest batch of intercepted council communications. These were not public broadcasts, but private military channels that Earth's advanced listening posts had cracked 2 years ago. What she read made her blood run cold. She immediately contacted the White House. President Helen Matthews took the call in the Situation Room. Secretary of Defense Greg Palmer and several military advisors were already present. Karen's face appeared on the main screen, and her expression told them everything they needed to know before she spoke. Madam President, we have a situation. I'm sending you a file now. The document appeared on everyone's tablets. It was a communication between Council military commanders discussing Earth. As Helen read, her expression hardened. The message discussed using humans as labor forces. It mentioned Earth's location in a resource-rich area of space. It suggested that a species too primitive to defend itself or engage diplomatically might be suitable for simple manual work in council mining operations. They're talking about enslaving us, Greg said quietly. Not officially, Karen corrected. This is just officers talking. But the fact that they're having this conversation at all means the idea is being considered at some level. Helen set down her tablet. What's the timeline? Unknown. But the rhetoric is escalating fast. 3 months ago, they were mocking our silence. Now they're questioning our right to exist as a free species. The progression is concerning. Over the next few weeks, the situation grew worse. The council began broadcasting messages directly toward Earth. These were not respectful diplomatic communications. They were condescending lessons about basic civilization, spoken in the tone one might use with a child. Humans of Earth, one broadcast began. We understand that complex ideas may be difficult for you. Let us explain in simple terms. The galaxy is a community. Species that wish to thrive must join this community. Your continued isolation suggests you do not understand this basic concept. We are prepared to send educators to your world to help you comprehend. Dr. Lisa Grant listened to these broadcasts with growing concern. The language analysis was clear. The council no longer viewed humanity as potential equals. They saw Earth as a problem to be solved, a primitive population that needed to be managed. She compiled another report. This one marked urgent. The council's attitude had crossed a threshold. They were no longer willing to wait for humanity to respond on its own terms. They were preparing to take action. Captain Ryan Foster commanded the UESS Sentinel, a monitoring vessel stationed near the edge of council space. His mission was to track council military movements and report anything unusual. For 3 years, the job had been routine. Council fleets moved in predictable patterns, conducting exercises and patrols along established routes. But last Tuesday, that changed. Ryan watched his sensors as a council fleet altered course, moving closer to human space. Not directly toward Earth, but closer than they had ever come before. The fleet consisted of 50 warships, more than enough to overwhelm any defenses the Council thought Earth possessed. Ryan sent an encrypted message to Earth Command. Then he continued watching, tracking every movement, recording every communication. On the Council station at the edge of their territory, Fleet Commander Hax Trell reviewed deployment orders. His species, the Drathir, were warriors. They had served the Council for generations, enforcing peace and protecting the weak. Hax Trell believed in the Council's mission. He believed in bringing order to chaos. The orders regarding Earth were clear. Position forces within striking distance. Wait for final authorization. Be prepared to enforce Council decisions if the humans continued their unreasonable silence. Hax Trell had fought many battles in his long career. He had faced pirates, rebels, and hostile species. He had never lost. The idea that humans with their primitive technology might pose any challenge was almost amusing. His ships carried weapons that could crack planets. His shields could withstand the blast of a star. What could humans possibly do against such power? Back on Earth, President Helen Matthews called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. Every nation's military commander attended, either in person or via secure connection. Scientists, intelligence officers, and diplomatic advisors filled the room. The council is positioning forces. Helen began without preamble. Our monitoring stations confirm they're moving assets closer to our space. We don't know if this is preparation for an attack or just intimidation, but we need to be ready for either. Admiral Claire Henderson spoke from her command station in the asteroid belt. The fleet is ready, Madam President. We can deploy at your order. Not yet, Helen replied. If we reveal our capabilities too soon, we lose our advantage. But we need to be prepared for the possibility that the Council forces our hand. The meeting lasted 6 hours. They discussed scenarios, responses, and contingencies. But everyone in that room knew the truth. 30 years of preparation were about to be tested. Earth had built ships, weapons, and defenses that the Council never imagined humans could create. They had trained crews and developed tactics based on decades of studying Council military operations, but none of it had been tested in real combat. They had run simulations, practiced maneuvers, and trained until every movement was perfect. But training and reality were different things. As the meeting ended, Greg Palmer approached Helen privately. "Are we really ready for this?" Helen looked at the star map on the wall, showing Earth's position and the advancing Council forces. "We'd better be. Because ready or not, I think it's coming." The transmission came through on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. Commander Jake Morrison was drinking coffee in the observation deck when alarms started blaring throughout the Vigilant. He dropped his cup and ran to the command center. "What's happening?" he demanded. Lieutenant Ben Carter pointed at the main display. "Emergency Council broadcast, sir. It's a full assembly. Every member species is present." Jake watched as the Grand Council chamber filled the screen. Every seat was occupied. This was not a routine session. This was something major. Ambassador Throckmal of the Hegemony species stepped forward. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with thick armor plating covering his body. His species were known for their direct approach to problems. They did not waste time with diplomacy when action seemed more efficient. "Honored members of the Council," Throckmal began, his voice deep and resonant. "For 30 years we have waited for the humans to respond to our generous offer. For 30 years they have remained silent. This silence has been interpreted as thoughtfulness, as caution, as careful consideration. I propose we have been too generous in our interpretation." The chamber fell silent. Every species present focused on the hegemony representative. "The humans are not being thoughtful," Throckmal continued. "They are being stubborn and foolish. They do not respond because they cannot comprehend what we offer. They are primitives, barely capable of leaving their own planet. They have had more than enough time. I invoke Article 73 of the Galactic Charter." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Article 73 was rarely used. It dealt with unresponsive, primitive worlds. Article 73 allows the Council to claim administration of worlds whose inhabitants demonstrate inability to participate in galactic civilization. The humans have failed to respond for 30 years. They have shown no advancement in technology. They broadcast no communications beyond their own planet. By all measures, they are a pre-civilized species occupying valuable territory in a resource-rich system. I propose the Council invoke Article 73 and begin settlement operations in the Sol system within 1 solar cycle. The chamber erupted. Some species cheered, others argued. But when the vote was called, the result was clear. 38 species voted in favor, only 5 voted against. 4 abstained. Article 73 was invoked. Earth was officially classified as a primitive world. The Council claimed authority over Sol system. They gave themselves legal permission to colonize, to settle, to take whatever they wanted, and they assumed Earth would not, could not stop them. In the Pentagon Strategic Command Center, alarms sounded throughout the building. General Paul Harrison sprinted down the corridor, his shoes echoing on the polished floor. He burst into the operations center where staff officers were already assembling. "Report," he barked. Colonel Amy Rodriguez pulled up the Council broadcast. "They just voted to invade us, sir." Article 73. They're claiming we're too primitive to govern ourselves. They're going to colonize Sol system. Paul felt cold rage settle over him. 30 years of preparation, 30 years of patience, and now this. The Council had not just insulted humanity. They had declared their intention to steal Earth's home system. He picked up the secure phone that connected directly to the White House. Madam President, we have a situation. Within 30 minutes, President Helen Matthews had assembled the full Earth Defense Council. Military leaders from every nation appeared on screens around the Situation Room. Scientists, intelligence officers, and diplomatic advisors filled every available chair. Helen stood at the head of the table and activated the main display. The council vote played again, showing the moment Earth lost its status as a sovereign world in the eyes of the galaxy. 30 years, she said quietly. 30 years we have prepared for this exact scenario. They think our silence means weakness. They think we cannot defend ourselves. They are about to learn how wrong they are. She looked around the room. General Harrison, what is our readiness status? Paul stood and brought up a tactical display. All defense grids are fully operational. The fleet is positioned and ready to deploy on your order. Every ship, every weapon, every system we have built is ready. We can launch within 6 hours. Dr. Peter Chang, Earth's chief scientist and head of the Advanced Technology Division, added his report. Our reverse engineering programs have been successful beyond initial projections. We have not only matched Council technology in most areas, but exceeded it in several key fields. Our weapons are more powerful. Our ships are faster. Our defenses are stronger. And they have no idea, Karen West added via secure link. Our intelligence confirms the Council believes we are still using chemical rockets and primitive satellites. They have no concept of what we have actually built. Helen looked at each face on the screens, each person in the room. Then we are agreed? We respond to this provocation. One by one, every member of the Defense Council voted. The decision was unanimous. Earth would not submit. Earth would not surrender. Earth would defend itself. Very well, Helen said. She straightened her shoulders, carrying the weight of speaking for 8 billion people. Draft the message. Admiral Henderson, prepare the fleet for immediate deployment. General Harrison, activate all defense systems. Dr. Chang, make sure every weapon is charged and ready. We are going to show the Galactic Council that Earth is not primitive, not weak, and definitely not available for colonization. She paused, looking at the star map on the wall. Send the message on every frequency the Council monitors. I want every species in that chamber to hear it. I want them to understand that their 30-year wait is over. Earth is breaking its silence. Commander Jake Morrison received the orders on the Vigilant 2 hours later. He read them twice, making sure he understood correctly. After 30 years of watching and waiting, Earth was finally ready to act. He activated the ship's communication system and connected to every monitoring station, every hidden base, every secret facility that humanity had built during their long silence. All stations. This is Commander Morrison. Execute Protocol Omega. I repeat, execute Protocol Omega. Earth is going active. Across the solar system, ships powered up. Defense platforms came online. Weapons charged. Crews moved to battle stations. For 30 years, Earth had been preparing for war while pretending to be helpless. Now that preparation was about to be tested. On the Vigilant, Ben Carter worked frantically at his console, preparing the message that would be broadcast to the entire galaxy. It had been written and rewritten dozens of times over the years, refined and perfected. Now it was finally going to be used. Message ready, sir, Ben reported. Jake took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would change everything. The moment humanity stopped hiding and showed the galaxy what they had become. Send it, he ordered. On all frequencies. Maximum power. Make sure everyone hears it. The message went out simultaneously from 100 locations. From Earth itself. From monitoring stations throughout the solar system. From ships the Council did not know existed. It broadcast on every frequency the Council used in perfect High Galactic, the formal language of Council proceedings. To the Galactic Council, we have received your proposal regarding Article 73. We decline. Earth is not an unresponsive primitive world. For 30 years we have been watching you, listening to you, learning from you. We have studied your languages, your technology, your culture, and your military capabilities. Our silence was not inability. It was strategy. You have mistaken patience for weakness. You have confused observation for fear. This is your error, not ours. We claim our sovereign right to exist as a free and independent world. Any attempt to violate Earth's sovereignty will be considered an act of war and will be met with immediate defensive action. We strongly suggest you reconsider your position. We are not primitives. We are not helpless. We are humanity, and we are done being silent. Respectfully, the United Earth Government. The message played on every council communication system simultaneously. In the Grand Council chamber, representatives froze in shock. On military vessels throughout council space, officers stared at their displays in disbelief. On council homeworlds, citizens watched the broadcast with confusion and growing concern. Earth had spoken, and what they said changed everything. The Grand Council chamber descended into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other in dozens of different languages. Some demanded an immediate military response. Others called for investigation. A few, the wiser ones, urged caution. Ambassador Veltharn's blue scales flushed deep purple with rage. He slammed his four hands on the podium, demanding silence. This is impossible. The humans barely have chemical rockets. Their satellites are primitive. Their computers are simple calculating machines. This message is a bluff, nothing more. High Counselor Zephyria floated forward, her energy form pulsing with agitation. How dare they speak to the Council in such manner? They are primitives. They have no right to refuse our authority. Send the military. Show them what happens when lesser species forget their place. But Admiral Kreshnok of the Council Defense Forces stood and raised his hand for silence. He was of Vrax, a species known for tactical brilliance and careful thinking. His people did not rush into battle without understanding their enemy. I urge caution, Kreshnok said, his voice cutting through the noise. I have analyzed the transmission. The signal strength indicates broadcast power far beyond what we believed humans possessed. The encryption was military-grade, more sophisticated than many Council species use. The simultaneous multi-point broadcast required coordination and technology that should not exist on a primitive world. You suggest the humans are lying about their capabilities? Another representative asked. No, Kreshnok replied carefully. I suggest we have been wrong about their capabilities. The question is how wrong. Throckmal, the hegemony representative who had invoked Article 73, stepped forward. His massive frame dominated the center of the chamber. There is one way to discover the truth. Send a fleet to Sol system. If the humans are bluffing, they will surrender when they see our power. If they are not bluffing, then we will see what they truly possess. Either way, we will have our answer. The vote was quick. The Council's 5th Frontier Fleet received orders to proceed to Sol system immediately. Their mission was clear. Enforce the Council's authority and prepare the system for colonization. Resistance was to be met with overwhelming force. Fleet Commander Haxus Trell received his orders aboard the flagship Dominator. 300 warships under his command, the largest fleet he had ever led. His officers assured him it was massive overkill for dealing with primitive humans. We should arrive in their system within 3 days, his tactical officer reported. Intelligence suggests they have perhaps 20 primitive spacecraft capable of leaving their planet. Nothing that could threaten even one of our ships. Haxatrell studied the tactical displays. Something about this situation bothered him. Admiral Kreshenok's warning echoed in his mind. The humans had spoken with confidence. They had used perfect high galactic. They had broadcast on every council frequency simultaneously. Maintain full defensive protocols, he ordered. I want sensors at maximum range. I want every ship ready for combat operations. We treat this as a military operation against an unknown force, not a police action against primitives. His officers exchanged glances but followed orders. Haxatrell had not survived 30 years of combat by underestimating his enemies. The fleet entered faster than light travel. 3 days to Sol system, 3 days to discover the truth about humanity. On Earth, preparations reached a fever pitch. Admiral Claire Henderson stood on the bridge of the UESS Victory, humanity's first true warship. The ship stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with weapons that human engineers had designed by studying Council technology and improving it. Around her, 11 more ships of similar size hung in formation near Jupiter. These were humanity's dreadnoughts, massive vessels built in secret shipyards hidden in the outer solar system. The Council had no idea they existed, but the dreadnoughts were just the beginning. 300 smaller attack craft, each crewed by highly trained pilots, waited in concealed positions throughout the system. Orbital defense platforms surrounded Earth, Mars, and the major colonies. Missile batteries on the Moon stood ready. Electromagnetic weapons on carefully positioned asteroids tracked approach vectors. Earth had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. Now they would find out if their preparations were enough. Council fleet detected, the sensor officer reported. They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge, counting 300 warships, various classes. Claire felt her heart rate increase but kept her voice steady. Maintain position. Don't power up weapons yet. Let them see us first. Captain Ryan Foster commanded the Victory's weapon systems. He had trained for this moment for 6 years, running simulations until he could operate every system blindfolded. Now those simulations were about to become reality. All systems ready, Admiral, he reported. Waiting on your order. On the Council flagship Dominator alarm started blaring. Haxtrell rushed to the command center. Report. Sir, we have contacts. Large contacts. Bearing directly ahead near the planet called Jupiter. The tactical display lit up with 12 massive signatures. Haxtrell stared at the readings in disbelief. These were not primitive spacecraft. These were warships, each one comparable in size to his own flagship. How is this possible? His tactical officer whispered. Intelligence said they had nothing like this. Intelligence was wrong, Haxtrell replied grimly. He opened a communication channel. Human vessels. This is Fleet Commander Haxtrell of the Galactic Council 5th Frontier Fleet. You are ordered to stand down and prepare to receive Council occupation forces. Resistance will be met with force. On the Victory, Claire listened to the transmission. She looked at the tactical display showing 300 enemy ships against Earth's 12 dreadnoughts and 300 attack craft. The numbers favored the Council, but numbers were not everything. She opened her own channel. Council Fleet, this is Admiral Claire Henderson of the United Earthship Victory. You have entered sovereign Earth space without permission. You have threatened our world with invasion. You have 30 seconds to reverse course and leave our system. This is your only warning. Haxtrell could not believe what he was hearing. The humans were threatening him? His fleet outnumbered their visible ships 25-1. This had to be madness. Humans, you cannot win this fight. Look at our numbers. Look at our power. You have 12 ships. We have 300. Surrender now and we will be merciful. Ryan Foster looked at Admiral Henderson. She nodded. Light them up, she ordered. Every weapon on every Earthship powered up simultaneously. The Victory's main cannons glowed with barely contained energy. Missile tubes opened. Point defense systems activated. And throughout the solar system, 300 attack craft dropped their stealth fields and appeared on Council sensors. Haxtrell watched in horror as his tactical display suddenly filled with new contacts. The humans did not have just 12 ships. They had over 300 positioned throughout the system in a carefully coordinated defensive formation. Sir, I'm reading energy signatures I don't recognize, his science officer reported. Their weapon systems are outputting power levels beyond standard Council military specifications. That's impossible, the tactical officer said. How could primitives develop weapons more powerful than ours? Lieutenant Susan Blake sat at the Victory's main weapons console. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. She had practiced, trained, and prepared. Now she was finally going to find out if Earth's weapons worked as well in reality as they did in simulations. Target acquired, she reported. Firing solution locked. Admiral Henderson looked at the Council fleet. 300 ships crewed by species that thought humans were primitive. Species that had voted to steal Earth's home. Species that were about to learn a very painful lesson. All ships, she broadcast to the Earth fleet. Weapons free. Show them what humanity can do. The Battle of Sol began. The Victory fired first. A beam of pure energy, powered by technology that combined Council designs with human innovation, lanced across space. It struck the shields of the lead Council ship and punched through them like they were paper. The beam carved through armor and hull, devastating the ship's internal systems. All across the battlefield, Earth ships opened fire. Directed energy weapons, kinetic missiles moving at relativistic speeds, electromagnetic pulse weapons, and technologies the Council had never seen. 30 years of preparation unleashed in seconds. Council ships returned fire, but they were caught off guard. They had expected primitive resistance. They got coordinated military action from a force that knew every weakness in Council tactics, because they had studied them for 30 years. Captain Nicole Grant commanded the UESS Defiance, coordinating the Southern Attack Wing, Her 6 ships moved in perfect formation, executing maneuvers that confused and disoriented the Council forces. They had practiced these patterns thousands of times. "Target the command ships," she ordered. "Cut off their coordination." The Council fleet tried to respond, but everything went wrong. Their weapons, powerful as they were, struggled against Earth's advanced shields. Their tactics, proven in 100 battles, failed against an enemy that knew them perfectly. Their coordination broke down as human electronic warfare systems infiltrated their communication networks. Commander Hax's Trell watched his fleet fall. The Battle of Saul lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. For Fleet Commander Hax Trell, each minute felt like an eternity of failure and loss. His tactical display painted a picture of complete disaster. Council ships exploded or drifted powerless. Human vessels moved with surgical precision, targeting command ships and critical support vessels. They did not fight with the fury of primitives defending their home. They fought with the cold efficiency of professionals executing a battle plan. "Sir, we have lost 70 ships," his tactical officer reported, voice shaking. "Another 30 are too damaged to fight. The humans have destroyed all our command support vessels. Our formation is falling apart." Hax Trell watched the UESS Victory carve through his fleet like a knife through soft flesh. The human admiral commanded her forces with skill that matched any Council tactician he had ever faced. She knew exactly where to strike, exactly when to press the attack, exactly how to maximize damage while minimizing her own losses. His science officer looked up from her console, face pale. "Sir, I have analyzed their weapons. The directed energy systems are 40% more efficient than our designs. Their kinetic missiles move faster than our point defense can track. Their electronic warfare capabilities are beyond anything in Council databases. How did they develop this technology?" "They learned it from us," Hax's Trell said bitterly. "They listened to our broadcasts. They studied our ships. They took our technology and made it better, and we called them primitives." Another explosion rocked his flagship. Damage reports flooded in.
Engineering reported shield failure.
Weapon systems were offline. Life support was failing on 3 decks. "Sir, recommend immediate withdrawal," his executive officer said. "We cannot win this battle." Hax Trell wanted to argue. He wanted to find a way to victory. But he was a warrior, not a fool. The battle was lost. Staying longer would only mean more deaths. "All ships," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Retreat. Fall back to Council space. Emergency withdrawal authorized." Throughout the battlefield, surviving Council ships broke formation and fled. Their faster-than-light drives engaged, and one by one they disappeared, running from an enemy they had expected to crush. Of the 300 ships that entered Sol system, only 247 escaped. The rest drifted as wreckage or burned as debris. On the Victory, Admiral Claire Henderson watched the Council fleet retreat. Every instinct told her to pursue, to destroy the fleeing ships, to eliminate the threat completely. But her orders were clear. "All ships stand down," she commanded. "Do not pursue. Let them go." Captain Ryan Foster looked at her in surprise. "Admiral, we have them on the run. We could end their fleet." "No," Claire replied. "Our mission is not to destroy the Council. Our mission is to defend Earth and send a message. They came here believing we were primitives. Now they know better. Let them carry that knowledge back to their government. Let them tell the story of what happened here." She looked at the tactical display, at the debris field that marked where Council ships had died, at the surviving vessels fleeing toward the edge of the system. "Besides," she added quietly, "we just fought 300 ships with 12 main vessels and support craft. We won, but we took damage too. If they realize how close this fight actually was, they might come back with a bigger fleet. Better to let them think we held back, that we could have done worse." On Earth, President Helen Matthews watched the battle end from the Situation Room. Around her, military commanders and advisors erupted in cheers. They had done it. They had defended Earth against the Galactic Council, but Helen did not cheer. She knew this was just the beginning. The Council would not forget this humiliation. They would not forgive being defeated by a species they considered primitive. The question was what they would do next. "Get me a secure channel to the Council central government," she ordered. "It's time for proper introductions." The holographic recording of the battle reached the Grand Council chamber within 2 days. The entire assembly watched in absolute silence as human ships systematically destroyed the Fifth Frontier Fleet. They watched the coordination, the precision, the overwhelming technological superiority. When the recording ended, nobody spoke for a long moment. Ambassador Veltharn sat motionless, his scales pale with shock. High Counselor Zephyria's energy form flickered and dimmed. Throckmal, who had invoked Article 73, stared at the empty display where the battle recording had played. Admiral Kreshenok broke the silence. I warned you. I said we should investigate before attacking. But you would not listen. You assumed the humans were weak because they were silent. You mistook strategic patience for primitive fear. He activated another display showing technical analysis of the battle. The humans did not just defeat our fleet, they dominated it. Their weapons are more advanced. Their ships are faster. Their tactics are superior. They have been watching us for 30 years, learning everything about us while revealing nothing about themselves. They turned our own arrogance into a weapon. A message notification appeared on the chamber's main screen. It was from Earth, from someone calling herself President of the United Earth Government. Play it, Veltharn said weakly. Helen Matthews appeared on the screen, seated in what looked like an official government office. She wore a simple dark suit. She looked calm, professional, and absolutely confident. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, she began. I am President Helen Matthews of the United Earth Government. You have asked many times why Earth remained silent after first contact. Allow me to explain. She leaned forward slightly. 30 years ago, you arrived at our world with promises of friendship and knowledge. You seemed benevolent, but we are a cautious species. We did not know you. We did not know if we could trust you, so we asked for time to consider your offer. During that time, we watched you. We listened to your broadcasts. We studied your technology. We learned your languages, all 47 of them. We analyzed your politics, your culture, your military capabilities. We wanted to understand who you really were before deciding whether to join your community. Her expression hardened. What we discovered troubled us. We saw how you treated species you considered inferior. We heard how you mocked those who were different. We watched you debate whether species like ours deserved to exist as free peoples. And when you invoked Article 73, when you decided to steal our home because we did not respond fast enough for your liking, we knew we had made the right choice to remain silent. You thought our silence meant we were primitive. You assumed we could not defend ourselves. You were wrong. We used those 30 years to prepare. We took your technology and improved it. We built ships, weapons, and defenses. We trained military forces. We became strong enough to protect ourselves from species who believe might makes right. She paused, letting her words sink in. Earth has no desire for conquest or domination. We do not wish to make enemies. But we will not submit to being treated as lesser beings. We are willing to establish diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council, but only as equals. We will trade knowledge, share resources, and participate in galactic affairs, but we will do so on our terms, as a free and sovereign world. The age of dismissing humanity as primitive children is over. We are here. We are capable. We are strong, and we demand to be treated with the respect that any species deserves. The choice is yours. You can accept us as equals and work with us in peace, or you can continue to see us as threats or inferiors, and we will defend ourselves accordingly. But understand this, we will never submit. We will never surrender. We are humanity, and we are done being silent. The message ended. The council chamber remained quiet for a long moment. Finally, a representative from a minor species stood. The Velen people were small, quiet, and often ignored in council debates. But the Velen ambassador spoke with clear conviction. I vote to grant Earth full council membership with all rights and privileges. They have proven they are not primitive. They have demonstrated they can defend themselves. They ask only for respect. I believe we should give it to them. Other voices joined, some out of fear, some out of respect, some simply because they recognized reality. Earth had proven its strength. Fighting them further would be costly and probably unsuccessful. 3 days later, the vote passed with 40 votes in favor and only 2 against. Earth was granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Ambassador Veltharn personally delivered the Council's formal apology for the insults and the invasion attempt. He met with President Matthews in the newly established Earth Embassy station in orbit. We underestimated your species, he said simply. We let arrogance blind us to the truth. The Council has learned a valuable lesson, though it came at terrible cost. Helen accepted the apology with grace, but her eyes remained hard. We will work with the Council in good faith. But understand that Earth will never forget what almost happened here. We will always be ready to defend ourselves. We will always be watching. We will never be silent when it matters. 6 months later, Admiral Jake Morrison arrived at Council headquarters as Earth's first official ambassador. He stood before the same chamber that had mocked his species and spoke in perfect high galactic. Earth thanks the Council for this opportunity.